Imagine this. You're sitting in a quiet room. The doors are locked. No one is calling. There's no deadline, no emergency, no visible threat. And yet, your chest tightens. Your breath shortens. Thoughts spiral like vultures over a battlefield. You scroll through your phone like a lifeline, searching for some signal of safety or distraction, but nothing satisfies. Deep down, you feel it again. Something is wrong, and you can't name it. How can a mind, in the absence of chaos, still tremble as if the world is burning? This is the paradox of modern existence. You're safer than any generation before you. You have access to medicine, shelter, knowledge, even comfort on demand. But somehow, anxiety has become the background noise of your life. A quiet panic hiding behind smiling photos, multitasking days, and the illusion of control. Why? Why do your hands shake before a harmless phone call? Why do you lie awake at night rehearsing imaginary disasters? Why does the silence feel more dangerous than the noise? Some say it's just biology, a chemical imbalance, a neural hiccup. But you know better. You feel it. It's deeper than that. It's not just in your brain, it's in your soul. A spiritual nausea, an existential vertigo. You stand on the edge of something vast and unknown, and the ground beneath you feels unstable. Maybe your anxiety isn't the problem. Maybe it's a signal, a message from a part of you you've silenced for too long. You weren't born like this. Somewhere along the line, you were taught to fear stillness, to worship productivity, to distrust your own mind. You were taught that success would calm you, that love would complete you, that scrolling would soothe you. But none of it has. If anything, the more you chase relief, the more it runs. So again, the question stands, heavier than ever. Why are you so anxious when you have everything? And more disturbingly, what if the very things you believe are helping you are the very things making it worse? You can feel the answer lingering just outside your awareness, like a dream you almost remembered. But it's buried, hidden behind distractions, expectations, and truths you've never dared to question. It's time to dig. Because until you understand what you're really running from, you'll never stop running. And what you're running from might be yourself. What if your anxiety isn't a malfunction, but a mirror? Not of the world, but of you, your fractured identity, your exiled emotions, the war between who you are and who you pretend to be. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the part of yourself you deny, suppress, or disown. The rage you swallow, the fears you hide, the desires you label as wrong. You push these parts into the dark, hoping they'll disappear. But they don't. They grow teeth. And in time, they return. Not as thoughts, but as symptoms, panic, dread, a vague sense that something inside you is about to collapse. Jung warned us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Anxiety isn't your enemy. It's the smoke from a fire you refuse to see. But here's the cruel twist. You've been conditioned to ignore the smoke. Modern society doesn't want you to pause and look inward. It makes you busy, productive, distracted. It wants you constantly stimulated but emotionally starved. You're told to move on, stay positive, fake it till you make it, as if pretending to be fine could ever heal a soul in pieces. Schopenhauer believed most suffering arises not from what happens to us, but from our expectations of how life should be. You've been fed a fantasy that if you do everything right, you'll finally feel peace. But life isn't a vending machine of joy. It's messy, uncertain, and sometimes unbearable. The anxiety comes when reality and illusion crash into each other, and something inside you shatters. And yet, the deeper you go, the more you realize this isn't just your story. It's a cultural epidemic. Aldous Huxley warned that we would be controlled not by fear, but by pleasure, so overstimulated that we'd lose our ability to feel, to think, to be. We scroll past genocides, wars, and heartbreak in between coffee ads and comedy clips. We've become numb in the name of entertainment. And in that numbness, anxiety festers like a wound we pretend doesn't exist. Even Sartre, the godfather of existentialism, saw anxiety as a sign of our freedom, the terrifying realization that we are not bound by fate, but by choice, that we must choose who to become, even in a meaningless universe, and that freedom is terrifying. It means you are responsible for everything you avoid, everything you fear, everything you've buried. So why are you so anxious? Because you're not just overwhelmed by life, you're estranged from yourself. You've abandoned the deeper questions in favor of shallow distractions. You've traded authenticity for acceptance. And you've been taught to pathologize your pain rather than listen to it. But that pain has something to say, and the longer you ignore it, the louder it screams. The question now is, what is that scream doing to your world? Anxiety doesn't knock politely. It seeps in like fog, invisible at first, then everywhere. You don't notice when it starts running the show. You just wake up one day and realize your entire life is being shaped around the need to avoid discomfort. You stop answering calls. You delay decisions. You say yes when you mean no, just to keep the peace. You scan rooms for danger, not opportunity. You check your phone, not out of curiosity, but fear. What did I miss? Who might be upset? What if I don't respond fast enough? This is what anxiety does when left unchecked. It rewires your life into a prison disguised as safety. Cognitive psychology calls this avoidance behavior. But it's more than that. It's a spiritual erosion. Every time you shrink from something meaningful, your sense of self decays just a little more. And eventually, you forget who you are without fear. Neurologically, anxiety isn't just emotional, it's physical. When your brain senses uncertainty, it hijacks your body, activating the amygdala, flooding your system with cortisol, and shutting down your ability to think clearly. It tells you to run, hide, escape. But the problem isn't a tiger in the jungle. It's an email, a memory, a question you've been avoiding for years. And you can't outrun it because it lives in you. The more you avoid, the more your world shrinks. The more your world shrinks, the more powerless you feel. And the more powerless you feel, the more anxious you become. This is the anxiety feedback loop, a self-reinforcing trap. But it doesn't just distort your internal world, it bleeds into society itself. We live in a culture built to exploit your anxiety. Marketing tells you you're not enough unless you buy this. Social media tells you everyone else is thriving except you. News cycles pump fear 24/7, keeping you hyper-alert, addicted to outrage, and unable to rest. And every app, every algorithm, every screen you touch is designed to keep you stimulated, but never satisfied. You weren't taught to self-regulate. You were taught to consume, and in that consumption, the soul dries up. You no longer feel joy. You chase dopamine. You no longer reflect. You react. You don't build meaning. You scroll past it. Eventually, anxiety becomes your default state. You don't even notice it anymore. It's just how things are. But beneath the surface, something is breaking. Your connection to reality, to meaning, to yourself. This isn't just a mental health issue. It's an existential one, and if you don't rebel against it, who will? Because something inside you already knows. This isn't how life was meant to be lived. The question is, can you remember who you were before fear became your identity? Maybe it's time to find out. Shall we begin the rebellion? The first act of rebellion is to feel, not scroll, not fix, not suppress, just feel. To sit in the storm of your own mind and say, I am not afraid of this. Because the truth is, anxiety gains power through your refusal to face it. Like a shadow, it grows larger the more you run from the light. But when you stop, when you turn around and look directly at the thing you've been avoiding, something strange happens. It starts to dissolve. This is not a metaphor, It's a biological reality. Neuroscience calls it exposure therapy. Philosophy calls it self-confrontation. Jung called it integrating the shadow. Whatever name you give it, the process is the same. What you resist persists. What you face transforms. The problem isn't your fear. The problem is your fear of fear. You've been taught that peace means never feeling anxious, that strength means never shaking, that growth means always being in control. But the opposite is true. Peace comes from allowing discomfort to pass through you, not fearing its arrival. Strength is knowing you can sit in your chaos and not be destroyed by it. Growth is letting the old versions of you die again and again. Nietzsche said, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." The path out of anxiety is not paved with avoidance, but with confrontation, with fire, with truth. So how do you start? You start by noticing what you run from, the silence, the uncertainty, the moment between stimulus and response. Then you pause and breathe. Not to get rid of the anxiety, but to prove to yourself that you can survive its presence. You can carry it without collapsing. Then comes the next step, radical honesty. Ask yourself not, what am I anxious about? But, what have I abandoned in myself to avoid feeling this way? What truth have you buried beneath busyness? What emotion did you label as a weakness? What version of you did you exile in order to be accepted? This is shadow work, not positive affirmations, not spiritual bypassing, but the brutal art of unmasking, of dragging the hidden parts of you into the light and saying, "You are mine. I will not abandon you again." Because your anxiety isn't just fear, it's information. It's the part of you still trying to speak after years of being ignored. And if you listen closely, it's not saying, "Run." It's whispering, "Wake up." This is your revolution, not against the world, but against the false self you were told to become. And once you start this rebellion, something miraculous happens. You remember who you were before the fear took hold. And that memory is power. Ready for the final truth? At the core of all your anxiety is a lie, a silent belief etched into your nervous system, hidden beneath years of conditioning, culture, and survival. I am not safe unless I'm in control. Control of how others see you, control of your emotions, control of the future, the past, the story you tell yourself just to fall asleep at night. But here's the truth. You were never in control. You were never meant to be. The storms of life were never yours to command. The thoughts that pass through your mind are not always your own. The world doesn't ask your permission to change, and still, you resist. You clench. You brace for impact before anything has even happened. And that tension, that refusal to surrender, is what keeps you suffering. Viktor Frankl, who survived the unimaginable horrors of Auschwitz, found clarity in the darkest place imaginable. He wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space we have the power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." That space is where your freedom lives. Anxiety tightens it, but awareness expands it. You've been trying to escape the chaos, not realizing that the chaos was never the enemy. The enemy was your disconnection from yourself, your refusal to feel full, to exist honestly, to let life move through you without armoring up every time uncertainty knocks. The ultimate truth? You are not broken. You are awakening. That tension in your chest? It's your soul trying to grow in a world that taught you to stay small. That spiral of thoughts? It's the echo of a mind that's been trained to fear stillness. That numbness? It's not failure, it's exhaustion. You've spent years running from yourself. No wonder you're tired. But you don't need fixing. You need to remember. Remembering that you were once wild, curious, alive, before they told you who to be. Before you begin editing yourself to fit into boxes built for the comfort of others. Before you confused anxiety with identity. You are not your panic. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness beneath them, the stillness that remains when the noise fades. Let that silence in, not as an absence, but as a presence. The one you've been avoiding is the one you've been searching for all along. So why are you so anxious? Because you've mistaken fear for truth. But the truth doesn't scream, it whispers. And right now, it's whispering, you are safe to let go. You are safe to come home to yourself. Not when you've earned it, not when you've achieved enough, healed enough, done enough. Now, and maybe the point was never to escape the darkness, but to become the one who could walk through it without flinching. Now the real question is, will you listen to the silence or will you run from it again?